Today on Not Sam Wrestling, how R-Truth became one of the biggest superstars on Monday Night Raw, a phenomenal Saturday night for wrestling fans. Sting's last match appears to be announced, and don't hinder Jinder. This is Not Sam Wrestling. Welcome to Not Sam Wrestling, and a huge time. First of all, let me get some announcements out of the way. Of course, Not Sam Wrestling Live is coming to Tampa, Florida at SideSplitters Comedy Club the Friday before the Royal Rumble. That's January 26th, 5 p.m. You can get tickets at notsamlive.com. The guest announcements will be coming this week. Make sure you follow Not Sam on Twitter, X, Instagram, whatever, because the announcements will be coming this week as to who will be joining me in Tampa, but I hope that includes you. Go to notsamlive.com for tickets right now, 5 p.m. show, so you can do whatever you want to that night. Friday, January 26th, SideSplitters in Tampa, Florida. And right now, you go over to notsamshirts.com and surprise, the merch drop is upon us. The vault has been opened with all new merch. The wild speculation era is here. T-shirts and hoodies to remind us all to speculate wildly. And for the first time, a Not Sam zip-up. Not Sam zip-up hoodie and the Speculate Wildly Not Sam Wrestling t-shirt in the new blue logo. Beautiful navy t-shirts, navy zip hoodies, incredibly professionally screen printed by Triumph Printing. It's all available now at notsamshirts.com. So check that out. Now, so much going on in the world of professional wrestling, and I've been itching to talk to you guys about this, about the Jinder Mahal, Tony Khan, wrestling Twitter controversy that has taken up much of the last 7 days, quite frankly, in all of our lives. Let's be honest, it's a wild time, and it's only getting wilder, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly where it's going to come from at any given moment, but a few days ago, it came from Twitter. The first tweet that I saw, well, I think that Tony Khan's tweet was first, and I might get things out of order because it's very complicated. It became a drama-filled day, all centered around Jinder Mahal. And I can only imagine that Jinder Mahal was just sitting there in his house, probably in the gym, let's be honest, look at the body on him, going, what? I was just minding my own business. Why am I the center of all this? So Tony Khan tweets out, and I guess he was getting fed up with, and I'm sure it weighs on him, right? It's become sport to try to dunk on AEW as often as possible, and nobody enjoys that when they're trying to build a business. But also, when you're the guy in charge, when you're the boss, it kind of goes with the territory. If you enjoy praise, if you enjoy compliments, if you get called Booker of the Year by some internet commentators and you promote that, then you've got to realize that the other side of that coin is also going to be there all the time. And that if we highlight all the good stuff, we have to at least accept, we don't have to highlight it, but we at least have to accept that the bad stuff is going to come too. And you know, a few years ago, I think the positive probably outweighed the negative. Now the negative seems to be outweighing the positive. And he ends up tweeting out that it's a double standard. Hook has a 28-1 career record on a winning streak, calls out the champ, a logical challenge, sparks online outrage. Now, I don't think that there was actually online outrage. It's not like first of all, Hook rules. Right? And that's problem number one with this whole scenario is that people forgot that Hook rules because he wasn't made to look good with any of these interactions. Don't put a spotlight on the fact that there are trolls on the internet that are trying to get a rise out of, I think they're just trying to get a rise out of AEW fans. They don't think for a second, I'm going to get a rise out of the CEO. But anybody that watches the product, which is one of the key component rules of Not Sam Wrestling, anybody that actually watches AEW is not upset that Hook and Samoa Joe are going to have a match on Dynamite. If you're headlining a pay-per-view out of nowhere with Hook and Samoa Joe, then you might have people going like, where does this come from? But the idea that you're going to have an episode of TV, you had Samoa Joe on television say, I'm here to just take on all challengers. Samoa Joe is a fun-ass champion. Anytime anybody challenges Samoa Joe, we talked about it like 2-3 weeks ago. Anytime anybody challenges Samoa Joe, it's an interesting match because Samoa Joe is that interesting. And you've got a guy, Hook, who's been booked to beat people up. Samoa Joe beats people up all the time, for real and not for real. So, I mean, why not have this match, right? But I guess the internet was getting to him. He goes, a logical challenge sparks online outrage. Jinder has literally lost every single match he's in for the past year. Immediately gets a title shot. Where is the rage? Hashtag AEW Dynamite tomorrow on TBS. Now, look, I do think that Tony Khan, at least, whether it's right or wrong, is not just off the cuff in this fit of rage and has to express himself. I think if you go through the history of Tony Khan and AEW, whether it's, putting out a weird Twitter video where he's got his deal with New Japan and he's doing like a wrestling promo about Nick Khan, whether he's done it a bunch of times. Like Tony Khan likes to stir up controversy so he can get people talking. And every single time he does this, I tell people, go to his account and you see that the top tweet on the account is always a plug for the TV show. I'm not saying it works, but I am saying that I believe that's his method. And I don't think it's that. I think it's not that far out of the realm of like Eric Bischoff going out of his way to spoil WWE results or to go on television and challenge Vince McMahon to a fight. I think that it looked. If you think that the same people that would say it looks small when Tony does this on Twitter are the same people that I think, if you remember back in '98, there were plenty of people who were like, "This makes Eric Bischoff look small. He's obsessed with Vince McMahon." And history does repeat itself. If one's good, the other's good. If one's bad, the other's bad. Or maybe there's a difference, and you can tell me all about it. But I also think that Twitter is a different animal. Twitter is not the show. If Eric Bischoff called out Vince McMahon to fight him on Twitter, there's just this weird separation where instead of it being a television character, people would go, Eric Bischoff's lost it. He's actually calling a dude out to fight. If Tony Khan were a television character that was saying some of this stuff, you could at least get away with the fact that it's a television character and not he's on Twitter and like this is actually bothering him. Because when the CEO of a company is tweeting about wins and losses, it's like, what are we doing here, pal? We're telling stories. That's all we're doing. Now, right after that, there's a tweet that goes out, and I believe this is after. It might have been before. It was right around the same time. A tweet goes out where somebody had tweeted that Seth and Jinder actually do have history, and it takes them back to the inaugural NXT title tournament. Now, I don't know if this was a subtweet reply to Tony saying that the Seth and Jinder match is more illogical than the Hook and Samoa Joe match. And so they, without actually mentioning Tony or AEW, just said, look, if this is a conversation at all, there is a logic that dates back here. I think it was 2012, maybe a little after that. In the inaugural NXT World Title Tournament, the final was Seth Rollins and Jinder Mahal, and that graphic has been shown multiple times. I mean, I don't even think you have to go back that far. It is interesting that that's there. But here's the logic. Jinder Mahal is a former WWE champion. He came out on Raw, and he actually cut a really great promo where he had a character. Whether you like the character or not, he got time on television. He cut the promo. He was introduced as a former WWE champion. And The Rock interrupted him. The Rock disrespected a former WWE champion who obviously had a bone to pick with the WWE universe, as was established on the television show. So, the idea that former WWE champion Jinder Mahal would be upset on Monday Night Raw the following week is very logical. And the idea that Seth Rollins, whose whole thing has been he's a fighting champion and will fight anybody, confronts this guy who feels as though he has been overlooked as a former WWE champion and agrees to a match. It's very logical, right? So this tweet goes out, and the problem was that there was a reply to it from the USA Network Twitter account that said, "What's the cage match rating? What was the cage match rating?" Now, of course, this is a direct shot at Tony Khan and the idea that he's obsessed with weird internet metrics that don't really translate to business, right? Cage Match. It's a website that calculates wins and losses and match length and all that, which is great. It's like trivia for hardcore wrestling fans and stuff, but it's certainly not how you realistically say, this is how I'm going to... But it doesn't matter, right? But it has come up in AEW press conferences before, and it's become somewhat memeable that people put Tony Khan in this light. So then Tony Khan replies to that, quote tweets the USA Network tweet. And by the way, that is a thing right now, right? That all these like corporate Twitter accounts, being a smartass as a corporate Twitter account has become something. I don't know if it's a successful business play or not. I know that if my company, Not Sam, had a corporate account, I'm the only one on, Not Sam account is my account. But if we were a bigger media company and I had a separate account and then Not Sam as a company had an account and I just hired like Hot Dog or somebody to run it, I would tell him, don't do the weird smartass stuff. It doesn't get us anywhere. Like, I don't think there's a benefit to it. Like the same way, if you look at the ratings of Dynamite, yes, was everybody talking about Tony Khan and Dynamite and AEW and Jinder Mahal and all this stuff right after all this tweeting went down? Yes. Did it affect ratings at all? No, not positive or negative. But the general outlook is just like, what are we doing? And I think the same thing applies, like, whether it's Wendy's and Chick-fil-A getting into fights on Twitter, whether it's, whoever it is, it's a whole business now. Like at one point, the Pabst Blue Ribbon Twitter account was tweeting sexually explicit tweets, which are funny, but it's not going to make me choose to buy beer or not. It's just like, what's the return on investment here? You're going to cause all this drama, but if it's not going to increase business, what are we really doing? So Tony doesn't let that go. He quote tweets the USA account, and then he writes, "A moral victory for USA is one win more than their world title challenger, Jinder Mahal, has had in the past 364 days, because it's been literally a full year since he won a match. You really put AEW in our place, getting Jinder Mahal in a big match on your TV show. Do it more often." And it's like, dude, nobody cares. Nobody cares if Jinder Mahal hasn't gotten... Do you know... Jinder Mahal lost every match. And then he got drafted to SmackDown. He won one match out of nowhere. People thought it was a goof. And then he became the WWE champion. This is the history of Jinder Mahal. But here's the thing about Jinder that you have to realize. If you're going to go into battle like this, you can't play checkers. You have to play chess. And this feels like checkers. This feels like somebody who thinks they're playing chess, but they're actually playing checkers. They think they're playing chess because they go, I'm going to start controversy, and it's really just a promo for my show. That's chess. No, it's checkers, because if you were playing chess, you would know that as much as people do love Hook, there is this underlying current of support for Jinder Mahal that has been there for a long time. The don't hinder Jinder bandwagon is real and has been real. As soon as Raw was, not even before Raw was off the air, as soon as the segment with The Rock and Jinder was done, as much as people were talking about the head of the table, and as much as people were talking about The Rock and Roman Reigns and when is this going to happen, there was this wave of internet memedom that was putting up graphics of Jinder Mahal and The Rock. Finish the story. Let Jinder finish the story. We want Jinder versus The Rock. Now, was this serious? No, of course not. But memedom cannot be broken. When the internet has decided this is the direction that we're going in, it won't be broken. I don't care what the win-loss record is of anyone in professional wrestling, which is a sport in which the person who's tweeting actively is the one who decided the win-loss record. The reason Hook's record is what it is because the guy who's tweeting made the choice. The reason Jinder's win-loss record is what it is because the people in charge of booking in WWE made the choice. You could talk about performance. You could say his promo's not good. You could say his matches aren't good. That's Jinder. You could say Hook doesn't deserve the match because he doesn't wrestle well, because he's gotten opportunities and they haven't panned out. That's Hook. That's the performer. But if you're coming with wins and losses or amount of time spent that's the booker. The performer's got no control over whether they're going to win or lose or how long it's going to take them to do that thing. And people know this. So when they're seeing somebody who's sending like unhinged tweets, and number one, they're bringing up wins and losses in professional wrestling as if that's a thing. And number two, they're talking about a guy who's got all the support in the world right now. What do you think's going to happen? Forgive this interruption, guys, but I want to make sure that we're all on the right track. I'm hoping to get there with HelloFresh. This time of year, you're setting all your goals, your nutrition goals. You want to make smart choices and changes in your life, but eating gets very, very complicated, right? There's no way any of us know how to cook properly, or the expense that you'd have to go to. Well, HelloFresh will give you the recipes. They'll give you the ingredients, and it's cheaper than getting takeout. I have a box that's coming. I've already ordered it, and I can't wait because I'm hoping that this is going to be a complete lifestyle change for me. HelloFresh, they have breakfasts that you can make in a pinch, fast 10-minute lunches. It's they figured out how to work within your day to help you get to the goals that you want to get to. That's why they're America's #1 meal kit. They send pre-portioned ingredients with the delicious recipes straight to your door. And you're going to impress your loved ones. Everybody that's in your life going like, you don't know what you're doing when it comes to eating. Look at this meal that I made for myself. Oh, how did you do it? Never tell them the secret, but the secret is HelloFresh. Since breakfast is the most important meal of the day, HelloFresh is giving all subscribers, get this, free breakfast for life with every single HelloFresh delivery. So I want you to go to HelloFresh.com/NotSamFree and use code NotSamFree to get free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/NotSamFree with code NotSamFree. No more gross fast food breakfast. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And so what inevitably happened, and a chess player knows this is exactly what's going to happen. And this is the problem. The problem is not Tony shouldn't be tweeting, because Tony can tweet all he wants, right? If Tony thinks that Twitter is a good vehicle to use to stir up controversy, to get people talking, use it all you want. I don't have a problem with it. But it's got to be strategic. What's the result? What's the outcome? On Dynamite, when Samoa Joe and Hook, I said Samoa Joe, but I was, moving my words together. On Dynamite, when Samoa Joe and Hook are staring each other down, that moment when Samoa Joe looks up at the ceiling on Dynamite in Daly's place and the Hook logo is in the bat signal thing on the roof, it was super cool. And Bam Bam Baklava is playing in the background. Hook comes out. He stares down Samoa Joe. It was fun. It was just this cool, fun moment. And that's the point, right? The fact that it was happening at Daly's place is like AEW is the place where somebody like Hook ends up with like a Hook versus Samoa Joe world title match is the type of thing that you would probably not see in WWE, but you would see in AEW. For better or worse, that's what makes AEW an alternative. That's what makes AEW different to WWE, which is what you want. But instead of people going, oh, that was a cool moment, these tweets are a much bigger story. Because then he starts tweeting back and forth with Eric Bischoff about whether Abaddon deserved the women's championship title opportunity. Don't explain you're booking based on wins and losses on Twitter unless there's a provable outcome that's going to be positive. Because here's what happened. In my opinion, Hook got buried through these tweets. These tweets did nothing to help Hook. Nothing. Here's what it did. In the tweet, you compared Hook to Jinder, and you tried to bury Jinder, which means that, like, Hook is going to catch some of that, some of that effect. And people disagree with you about Jinder. So this wave of support that already existed, the Don't Hinder Jinder movement, not only does it get into effect, but it becomes contagious. People see how fun it is to root for Jinder Mahal. Because with Jinder Mahal, number one, everybody can tell this guy works his ass off. Number two, he's a big guy and he cuts a good promo. Number three, everybody can see how hard he works in the gym. Everybody can see the physical transformation that that guy made. There's something about Jinder Mahal where you go, okay, on paper it doesn't make sense, but clearly this guy has busted ass to get to where he's at. Whether it's in wins and losses or not, you can't look at Jinder Mahal and go, that guy doesn't deserve what he's got. He deserves all of it because he's worked just as hard as anybody to get into the positions that he's in. And people know this. That's why people love him secretly. They boo him because he's a bad guy. They meme him because weird stuff has happened in his career. But ultimately, a lot of wrestling fans, they have a love for Jinder Mahal, as happens with people that have been around as long as Jinder Mahal has been around. So coming off of this Twitter exchange, nothing positive happens for Hook. AEW doesn't look better at all for it. And Jinder is over like Rover. Somehow these tweets made Jinder Mahal a babyface to the point that while I can't picture it ever happening because of this, people are going, how great would it be if Jinder Mahal won the world title because of this? I don't think it's going to happen. Seth is defending against Jey Uso. By the way, Jey Uso hasn't won a ton of matches, but he's still a top guy. You know? So of course he's going to have a match with Seth Rollins. So my point is that will Jinder Mahal win the world title because of this? No. But I would imagine that because of this and everything that Jinder's doing and the fact that his stock is inarguably raised because of all of this, I mean, I think we're getting a nice Jinder spot in the Royal Rumble. I think Jinder's going to be in the Royal Rumble match. I think Jinder's going to come out and get a big reaction. And I don't think Jinder's going to win the Royal Rumble, but I think he's going to have a big spot. I mean, I think this is going to be a boot in the ass because, I mean, look, current WWE has, especially in the last year, done a phenomenal job of executing on something when it's hot. They are really keyed in right now, and they haven't always been, but they are really keyed in right now into figuring out when something is hot and going for it. And that is 100% going to happen with Jinder. Whether the plan from the beginning was to give Jinder a nice boost coming back or not, there is no way that they don't realize that they've got the opportunity to do something here. It's the same thing they did when Jey Uso walked into a press conference and started saying yeet over and over again. They realized what they had, and they went all the way with it. Yeet, 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 yeet. When something is working right now, WWE goes for it. And I think that we're going to see that with Jinder. We've been seeing it every single week with R-Truth. I don't think that when R-Truth first came back, it's like there's this plan to go like, oh, yeah, we're going to put you at the Judgment Day and make it into a big deal. Right? R-Truth came back at Survivor Series the same night that CM Punk did. And it was a goof not that his return was a goof, but it was a joke. It was a goof in the press conference that Triple H goes, the big return of the night, R-Truth. I don't know how he kept it quiet, blah, blah, blah. And everybody laughed. It's funny. But R-Truth had a hilarious segment that was a sponsored segment. Those sponsored segments have gone one of two ways. Either they work or they're real big eye rolls. There have been some sponsored segments in WWE history that fans look at going like, are you kidding me with this? That didn't happen this time, because everybody was happy to see Truth and because Truth was hilarious. And then coming right off of that, just having him interact with the Judgment Day has been phenomenal, to the point where this week, according to the internet, according to rumors, which could be wild speculation or could be true. I haven't seen the spreadsheets in front of me, but they released 2 Judgment Day t-shirts this week. One was the shirt that Truth has been wearing that he first made for himself. Now it's an official shirt where it's got the members of the Judgment Day. You know, it's like Priest and Finn and Rhea and Dom and JD. And then there's a little piece of tape on the bottom that says, and R-Truth. And he made that himself, and they just turned it into a t-shirt. So that's one of the t-shirts. And then the other t-shirt is the graphic that came up at the end of a segment that was sheer brilliance on Monday Night Raw. The Live, Laugh, Love, the Judgment Day. And it's a picture of the Judgment Day with R-Truth right there, smack dab on the middle of a t-shirt. Most beautiful shirts I've seen since the Not Sam Winter drop at notsamshirts.com. So, apparently these 2 shirts combined made R-Truth the top-selling merch seller of the week. Above CM Punk, above Cody Rhodes, above Roman Reigns. Everybody jumped on board for that Judgment Day R-Truth merch. And I mean, I'm not shocked at all. I haven't bought it yet, but I will. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, I got to have that stuff. Because I'm just sitting there watching it when R-Truth says, I remember when I was a baby and I looked in the doctor's eyes and I said, my dream is to be a member of the Judgment Day. And you see, like, the Judgment Day is babies. Isn't it remarkable that we have AI to help us out with stuff like that? Hey, can you put Finn Balor's beard on a baby with a leather jacket? Yes, sir. Anything else? And we see the Judgment Day as babies and then a little R-Truth baby. Just the idea that the Judgment Day was around when R-Truth was a baby. Just the sheer absurdity of the whole thing. And then the photoshops of R-Truth at ringside with the Judgment Day. And R-Truth on the ladder with Damian Priest. And just everywhere. It was so brilliant. To the point where I don't know if he was supposed to laugh or if he was breaking. Whatever it was, Damian Priest was laughing in the segment that followed it. It was so good. Truth is just like, it's really interesting with R-Truth. Because this is a guy who's been in WWE for years. He's done everything. And this part of his career where he's like more kind of entertainment comedy could be short-lived. And for a lot of people, it would be short-lived. But this is the longest, most successful run he's had. R-Truth is in this rare air where Truth can be your favorite wrestler and he never has to wrestle a match. Now he wrestled JD. That's how he got into the Judgment Day. It's still unclear exactly whether or not that was official. And of course, we've had the reunion of the Awesome Truth. Although Truth has clearly made it known that he is not 100% sure whether he's on Miz's team or on the Judgment Day. But I mean, just the idea that, like, not only has this breathed fresh air into R-Truth, I mean, this is a guy who's been doing the comedy stuff for years now, whether it's Little Jimmy, whether it's coming out and going, my bad, whether it's whatever. Now this whole Judgment Day thing has created a whole new wave for R-Truth, but it's also breathed life into the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day was getting to the point where it was almost like, okay, what are we going to do next? Well, what about this? And it's this whole new avenue that you didn't know. The Judgment Day as a faction, which made them unique from the beginning. Well, not from the beginning, because from the beginning is like with Edge, where it was a little rocky to start. But when the Judgment Day caught fire was when Dominic joined and he became Prison Dominic. And Dirty Dom being a comic foil to a group of wrestlers that could beat people's asses was magical. To me, that's what made the Judgment Day. The fact that, like, Rhea Ripley and Dominic had this chemistry. And that the Judgment Day accepted Dom. You know, he's like, no, everything Dom's saying is 100% true. But like you look at Finn and Damian Priest, and these are two guys that have real credibility because they win big matches. So but it's almost like, okay, once that story is kind of done, where do we go? And now you have this all new, fresh comic element in R-Truth, to the point that like Dom's absurdity as being somebody who spent time in jail and dirty Dom, and he's tough and he's from the streets, that isn't even brought up anymore. Like that level of absurdity has been eclipsed by the level of absurdity that's been brought in by R-Truth. And absurdity is wow, it's a risky thing. Because it's either going to work or it's going to make you go like, this doesn't make any sense. This is so dumb. But truth can make it all work. It's really an awesome thing to see. And I love that. I mean, R-Truth has become one of the biggest stars on Monday Night Raw. It's like when you see those Judgment Day segments, you go, oh, I can't wait till Truth comes out. Oh, I can't wait to see what Truth's going to do. You've got Damian, and it's the dichotomy of it, right? That's what pro wrestling is. That's what it's all about. The fact that we can have Damian Priest with the briefcase being like, no, I'm a constant threat to the world title. And we can sit there and say, yes, at some point, Damian Priest could very well win the championship. And when we talk about even, as we fantasy book WrestleMania and all that stuff, so much of so many conversations have been around Damian Priest. Like there's some people that are like, what if The Rock beats Roman and then Priest cashes in? Or what if Priest cashes in here? The reality of him winning the title is something that is in fans' minds. He probably should have a few less failed cash-in attempts, but it's still something that is a realistic possibility in the mind of the fan. At the same time, he's got to deal with the fact that R-Truth doesn't understand that he's not a member of the Judgment Day. So the fact that you could have something serious enough to be put into the conversation of the world title hunt, but also absurd enough to be R-Truth trying to push his way into the Judgment Day, to me is magic. And I have been absolutely loving it. We keep talking about things that could happen. We were just talking about things with Truth and the cash in and stuff like that. It's hard to believe that the Royal Rumble is actually only like 2 weeks away, right? Yeah, less than 2 weeks at this point. I'm going to do probably a whole Royal Rumble show next week. But as we stand here, there are a couple of things that I think are very interesting heading in, a couple of conversations. First of all, the Women's Royal Rumble. I think we have to talk about this because people are realizing that, we've been talking so much about the Men's Royal Rumble that what is going to happen with this Women's Royal Rumble? The only people that we've got announced, and I like, by the way, that there's only 5 men announced for the Royal Rumble match and 4 women announced for the Royal Rumble match. I don't think you really need to announce more than like 8 to 10 people for the Royal Rumble. I don't think you need to go, if you're going to have like 3 surprises, I don't think you need to go, okay, here are the 27 people that are in, and there will be 3 surprises. I like it a lot more when you announce like 8 to 12 people that are going to be in the match. And then that, whatever, 15 at least will just be current superstars, It'll be Otis, it'll be Chad Gable, it'll be this guy, it'll be that guy. But then you don't know exactly how many surprises there are going to be. You don't know exactly how many people from the past, people from other promotions, people from whatever it is, people returns. You don't know, like, if you announce in advance there's going to be 3 returns, you either know if you're about to hit number 27 and there's been 2 surprises so far, a surprise is coming. But if you do it in a way where you don't announce all the entrants, you don't know when the last surprise has hit. You have no idea up until number 30, unless number 30 is one of the 8 people that you've already announced. You have no idea. So I like that idea. I like that only a few people are being announced. But as far as the Women's Royal Rumble goes, for me, I think that the women announced are Bayley, Nia Jax, Becky Lynch, and Bianca Belair. Oh, no. I'm sorry. That's the oh yeah. That's who's announced. The previous winners are Asuka, Becky, Charlotte, Bianca Belair, Ronda Rousey, Rhea Ripley. So Rhea Ripley's not going to be in it because she's the champion. Ronda Rousey's not going to be in it because she's not in WWE anymore. Charlotte Flair's not going to be in it because she's injured. And yeah, Asuka hasn't been announced, and maybe that's has to do with no other members of Damage Control, or it could be interesting if there are other members of Damage Control in this thing. But right now, Becky is in it, and Bianca is in it, right? So those are the two that could have double Rumble wins. And I don't see Bianca Belair winning this year. I could see Becky Lynch winning. I could see Becky Lynch winning because it would kind of take her to what's next after Nia Jax. I feel like she could wrap things up with Nia at Elimination Chamber. And then what is Becky doing at WrestleMania? I don't think anybody can tell you. Nia Jax beat Becky Lynch on Raw. And it's like, okay, so that's a story going forward. But that's not a story that takes us from now all the way until WrestleMania. I mean, I guess it could, but I don't see that as a realistic possibility. Becky and Nia are both in the Rumble, so clearly they'll have a problem in the Rumble. And then I would imagine that Elimination Chamber would be the time to wrap that thing up and then send Becky on whatever story that she's got going into WrestleMania, and it could be a reason to put her in the hunt for the Women's Championship. Now, look, if you're going to have Jade Cargill show up in the Royal Rumble and she's going to win it, then I would think Rhea Ripley would be her opponent, not Io Sky. So that also may throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. You know, I don't see Nia Jax winning the Rumble. I think that it's possible, but I don't see it. For me, honestly, I think that Bayley is 100% going to win the Women's Royal Rumble. That's my choice to win the Rumble. I think Bayley should win the Women's Royal Rumble. And the way this works is that she and Damage Control are obviously having problems. They're making her kind of prove herself to them the way they didn't help in the Bianca Belair match. And then I'm sure we'll tune into SmackDown this week and they'll be blaming her for losing to Bianca. This thing that Bayley really created, Damage Control, has slipped through her grips because in her efforts to be apologetic to Kairi Sane for what she thought was ending her WWE career when Kairi came back, she didn't want to upset the apple cart. So she allowed Kairi to not only bring Asuka into the fold, but also kind of take control over the whole thing without actually saying, I'm the leader. So Bayley is now in this position where she's not only got to prove to Kairi that she's like, okay, no hard feelings, and I'm sorry, but she's now got to prove to the entire Damage Control why she should be in this thing that she created. It's not a fair thing, which is why I think that Bayley turns babyface after winning the Royal Rumble. I think that when Bayley was a good guy, it was great for a period of time, and then it needed the refresh. I like that Bayley turned heel when she did, when she cut off the hair, when she stripped down the wacky wobblers, when she completely changed her image. It evolved into the ding dong hello, into Bayley being a smartass, into Bayley having them jokes, and I loved it all. I think now we get to a place where it's like, okay, how do we refresh Bayley's character to the point where she goes to the main event again? How do we get in the record books that Bayley should be in that conversation with Becky and Charlotte and Rhea and Bianca? Like, Bayley should be on that list of women who have won the Royal Rumble. And also, how do we justify the fact that Damage Control is bullying her? How do we justify the fact that Damage Control is doing this stuff to her, right? Bayley at one point was the Roman Reigns of Damage Control, but now she's become the Jey Uso of Damage Control. I think that Damage Control puts her in a place almost like Evolution style, where they're pushing her to be like, okay, now go tell him you're going to fight Rhea. Now go tell him you're going to fight Rhea. Now go tell him you're going to fight Rhea. And she turns around and says, no, Io. And she finally stands up for herself. And that's when Dakota turns on her. We can do a little Bayley versus Dakota if Dakota is healthy by then on the way there. And then get to WrestleMania and hopefully crown this new heroic Bayley and start the next chapter in her incredible career. And it would remind people how incredible she is. And I think that, having another nice, strong babyface women's champion would be a great thing. On the men's side, as of now, Cody, Punk, Shinsuke, Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre. So I see Punk winning the Royal Rumble because I see Rock versus Roman happening at WrestleMania. I see Punk throwing Cody Rhodes out last. I think that the story going into WrestleMania is a despondent Cody not being able to finish the story. And I think that we start Cody's next journey before WrestleMania. So there's no sort of, we're not trying to trick people. We're not trying to make people forget. Everybody knows that Cody was supposed to finish the story. Everybody knows he's not going to finish the story. So I think he's despondent after losing the Royal Rumble. I think we start a new feud with somebody at Elimination Chamber or around Elimination Chamber. So we get to WrestleMania and Cody does have something to fight for that is not the story. And it allows him to do this, right? Maybe somebody beats him in the chamber or somebody cheats to beat him in the chamber. And now he's going to get revenge on that person for stopping him from finishing the story. And he beats that guy at WrestleMania, whoever it is. And then the next night on Monday Night Raw, CM Punk, after winning the Royal Rumble, he goes to Elimination Chamber. He faces Drew McIntyre. He beats Drew McIntyre at Elimination Chamber. CM Punk then goes to Monday Night Raw after beating Seth at WrestleMania. Night 1 of WrestleMania, CM Punk wins the World Heavyweight Championship from Seth Rollins. And he shows up at Monday Night Raw and he cuts his first promo as world champion. But who comes out? Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes is not confronting Punk to finish the story because Punk's title won't finish the story. But the fact is that the same reason that Cody Rhodes had to fight whoever beat him in the chamber at WrestleMania, it didn't start with the chamber. It started with the Rumble. And Punk's the one who stopped Cody from finishing the story at WrestleMania. So now Cody is going to end Punk's story. And we go forward after WrestleMania with a Cody Punk World Heavyweight title story that is based around the fact that Cody has yet to finish the story. And I don't even think you have to turn Cody heel to do this. I think you do it artfully in a way where Cody doesn't come across as whiny, where Cody doesn't come across as blaming anybody but himself. But at the same time, he needs to prove that he can beat these people to get himself to where he needs to be. Roman Reigns and the Bloodline have told a story over almost 4 years now. There's no reason to believe that Cody needs to finish the story within, a year, within 2 years, within whatever. You know what I mean? We've got the time. So let's have this guy go on an odyssey. Let's have this guy do it and having a grudge with whoever it is in the chamber to get you to WrestleMania and then fighting CM Punk to get you towards the summer. I don't think that's a bad thing for Cody at all. There are Elimination Chamber rumors that Roman Reigns won't even be at the chamber, is what the internet is saying anyway. That all the people that were hoping to get Rock versus Roman at the chamber so they could still get the story at WrestleMania, now there are reports that won't happen. Reports are meaningless. Reports are wild speculation. Reports are the same as what we do here, for the most part. We just kind of make stuff up that is based on what we're seeing in front of our faces. Whatever, 8 times out of 10. Some reports are true, obviously. But I don't think we're getting Rock Roman at Elimination Chamber anyway, for all the reasons that I've pointed out on this podcast. But I do think that it lends credence to the fact that we're not getting that WWE announced this week that CM Punk is going to be at the chamber. And I believe it's been announced that CM Punk is wrestling at Elimination Chamber. I think WWE knows that the rumors of Rock and Roman at the chamber have gotten a little too hot. We don't want to make people think that something that's going to happen, that isn't going to happen, is, because people will get disappointed. So instead, let's go, hey, how about the first big giant CM Punk match is going to happen in Elimination Chamber? Pretty big deal, no? I would say yes. The fact that CM Punk is flying all the way to Australia to have this match, and that's why I think the Drew McIntyre thing is happening. That's why I think we got that confrontation between Punk and Drew McIntyre on Raw, which was fantastic, by the way. And I think we go to Elimination Chamber doing Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. And so, yeah, I mean, look, maybe I'm too big of a CM Punk fan, but that's how I chart out the beginning of this year. CM Punk wins the Rumble, then he beats McIntyre at Elimination Chamber, then he wins the title from Seth at WrestleMania. And honestly, the reactions that CM Punk gets, the attention that CM Punk gets, it'd be hard to convince me that that wouldn't be good business. Speaking of good business, we had a good bit of business on Saturday. As a wrestling fan, just a ton of shows. You had Collision, you had Battle of the Belts, you had TNA Hard to Kill, and you had Battle in the Valley, New Japan Pro Wrestling. And all of it was fantastic. You have Adam Copeland continuing his open challenge, which, I don't know. I mean, people who don't like AEW, I guess, are critical of it, but I'm not critical of it. I think it's cool. You know, I think that you could criticize that historically AEW has not been the best at executing on pushes that, executing on pushes that could come from it. But I think people are like, why is Adam Copeland? Why is he fighting Griff Garrison? Why is he fighting Griff Garrison? Why is he fighting Griff Garrison? Well, you just said Griff Garrison 3 times in a row. That's why. Because the idea is that, Collision isn't the most watched wrestling show of the week. People are, to some level, at least going to be aware of who Edge is facing. I didn't watch Collision because I was watching Hard to Kill live. I watched it later. But people were like, oh, Lee Moriarty is fighting Adam Copeland. I was like, that's awesome. I'm a Lee Moriarty fan from when he was on the Indies. He was on this podcast before he signed to AEW. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, what a weird fantasy match. Lee Moriarty versus Adam Copeland on Collision. That's fun. It's not that different from John Cena doing his United States Open Challenge and having like Kevin Owens from NXT come out and all that stuff. Now, WWE was a little bit better at executing on the attention that it gave to these young stars. And that's a criticism that is valid, I think, for AEW. But in terms of why would you do that to begin with, I understand completely why you would do that to begin with. If Adam Copeland wants to wrestle regularly and he wants to get his hands on guys that he never has before, doing this open challenge with these young guys is probably the way to do it. But for me, so you had a bunch of stuff happening, right? You had, at the New Japan show, you had a video where Mustafa Ali challenged Hiromu Takahashi, to a match at the Chicago show. So it's so cool that Ali is now going to New Japan. And Jack Perry showed up at the New Japan show in person under a mask, took off the mask. It's Jack Perry. He's got a big beard now. I don't know why handsome guys try to make themselves unhandsome. Jack, you're going to get older. You won't be as handsome when you're older. Grow the beard then. Let him see your handsome face, bud. I know you want, just let him see the handsome face. Whatever. He's got his hair. He's got his big beard. Pulls his contract with AEW, rips it up. I think it still may be legally binding, but rips up his contract with AEW and puts on an armband that says scapegoat. Look, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think if AEW wants to continue to use Jack Perry in the future, so much controversy around how he left. How do we do this? Well, if we can get him to build some buzz in New Japan, and by the time he comes back to AEW, it's not, you remember Jack Perry, he's the guy that got into the fight with CM Punk. This is Jack Perry, the guy who's created all that buzz in New Japan. It may be easier for AEW to use him in that case. And I think Jack will also have an easier time redefining himself and coming off of that in New Japan than he would in AEW. So I think that that's a good thing. I think the Ali thing is amazing. For a lot of the same reasons why I think it's amazing the people who showed up on TNA Hard to Kill. TNA, of course, launched their TNA Plus app, which includes the whole TNA library, and then you can either buy the pay-per-views for $40 a pop, which I guess they're going to be doing every month now, or you can pay whatever it is, $200 or $220 or something like that a year, and you not only get the whole TNA library, but you also get all the live pay-per-views. So I watched it on the TNA Plus app. I think TNA just does a great job of presenting TNA. They don't try to be bigger than they are. They don't try to be anything that they're not. They don't try to compete with anybody. They just present the product that they want to present, that they feel like is not there. They present an alternative product. Not in a way that's like, yeah, that guy sucks, you should watch us. Just in a way like, okay, yeah, we're doing this over here, so if you like wrestling, this might be fun too. And it is. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, my buddy DJ Hookit on the pre-show throwing laptops at Joe Hendry. Dana Brooke showed up as Ash by Elegance. Ash by Elegance, now part of TNA. Now, Trinity lost the TNA Women's Championship, as they rebranded, by the way. A lot of title changes. World title changed. Women's title changed. A bunch of them changed. Tag title did not change. I think X Division did. Women's tag did. So Trinity lost the title to Jordynne Grace, which Jordynne Grace is fantastic. But I do think that there could be some truth to the rumors that Trinity may be headed back to WWE. I don't know why she would lose the title, if not because she's headed back. The fact that Trinity lost the title, the fact that you have another WWE level famous, maybe not quite as famous as Naomi was, but still an ex-WWE talent like Dana Brooke showing up, and the fact that the Royal Rumble is in 2 weeks, all would kind of put together lead me to believe that Trinity lost the championship because Naomi is returning at the Rumble. These are all things that I've put together on my own. These are not things that I'm not trying to, there aren't reports of this. These are things that I put together as I watched the show. I'm being honest with you. But so Ash by Elegance shows up. There was a shot of her from behind, which was fun. Who's this? It was Dana Brooke as Ash by Elegance, which I think will be fun. But really what I liked was Nic Nemeth showing up at the very end. Moose won the world title from Alex Shelley. And music started playing. Moose and his faction, which includes Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards, they were looking at the big screen. The big screen says Most Wanted. That's Nic Nemeth, the former Dolph Ziggler's new handle. And then, boom, from behind, Nic Nemeth is there. He attacks Moose, jumps into the crowd, rips off his Motley Crue shirt, and there's a TNA shirt underneath it. Now, we just saw Nic Nemeth in New Japan. So the fact that within 7 days, he's popping up on a New Japan show, and now he's popping up on an Impact show, a TNA show, I think that that's great. I think that that's exactly what wrestling needs. Right? I don't think that there's any reason somebody who's as talented as Nic Nemeth, the former Dolph Ziggler, is that guy who can not only make himself more valuable by going from promotion to promotion to promotion to promotion, but in an altruistic way, make the independents so much healthier. Make all those third brands so much healthier. The fact that now you've got Matt Cardona, Nic Nemeth, Mustafa Ali, all like top tier professional wrestlers, and all going from promotion to promotion, all in this area where you never know where they're going to pop up. Just free agents that are remaining free agents and signing deals that allow them to remain free agents. I think that that's the way that guys like that should be. I'm sure it's a lot more work, and I'm sure that the guaranteed money from like a WWE or an AEW is a lot better. But man, I do think that if you have the talent that any of those three guys do, that you will be able to increase your value more doing it this way. And I absolutely love what it does for the wrestling industry as a whole. So I was really excited to see Nic Nemeth show up in TNA because that's going to be a big boost for TNA. Matt Cardona was on a GCW show challenging Nic Nemeth. So the fact that we're going to get like Nic Nemeth on New Japan, Nic Nemeth in TNA, Nic Nemeth in GCW, and it's all going to happen this year, it's phenomenal. And that's the way it should be, you know? There's no, okay, I'll do that. I'm going to do this for a couple years. I'm going to do that for a couple years. Do it all right now. And then see where you land. I mean, at the end of 2024, I can't wait to hear the conversation that we're having about Nic Nemeth and the brand that he's built. Cody started it. Matt Cardona followed it up. And I think Nic Nemeth is the next guy on that chain to show what you can really do if you put the pedal to the metal and you bet on yourself. Speaking of celebrated superstars, of course, we got a hint as to what Sting's last match may actually be. You know, my pick has always been to do Sting versus Swerve. And I guess the reports are that Sting would much rather do a tag team match at this point in his career. And I'm like, look, dude, I get that, generally speaking. But at Daly's Place this week, which by the way, I hope AEW runs Daly's Place regularly. Like, not regularly, but like twice a year would be great, because it really does. It just got such a unique aesthetic look that I feel like Daly's Place reminds people of what the foundation of AEW is. And if you could do more there and start getting more into really concentrating on AEW as a singular identity, I think that you do really well. But at Daly's Place, the fact that like Sting dropped, I think it was Powerhouse Hobbs, off the audience, off the stage, through a table, I'm like, look, if you can do that, you can do a 10-minute singles match. But whatever, I mean, Sting should do what Sting wants to do at this point. He's given us enough. And I guess he prefers to do tag matches. And at the end of the Darby Allin Sting match on Dynamite, the Young Bucks showed up with mustaches, looking like villains, looking like corporate villains instead of the freewheeling Young Bucks that we're used to. So it looks like the Young Bucks may be working heel, and that Sting's last match may be a tag match, Darby and Sting versus the Young Bucks, which, ultimately, I think that the choice is made to just do a final match that will celebrate Sting. Look, the match is going to be great because the Bucks are going to be able to the Bucks could have a great tag team match with literally any tag team. They're not the only tag team that could do that, but they are a tag team that is capable of having a great tag team match with literally anybody. So there's no doubt in my mind that Sting and Darby versus the Young Bucks is going to be a fantastic match. And it will probably just kind of end up being a celebration of the career that Sting has had. And if anybody deserves that, I think Sting does. But all that said, I do in my heart of hearts, I love my stories. And I do in my heart of hearts wish that even if it was a situation where Sting didn't want to do a singles match, I kind of wish it was Swerve just coming out and beating him up for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes. Like, Sting just selling for 15 minutes and then losing. I know. People would be so bummed out. There's going to be 10,000 plus in Greensboro. Because that's the thing, right? You got to also understand what the live crowd is going to feel like. You got to understand what the audience at home. This is going to be a Sting show. So I get it. I get why you can't just, destroy Sting on his last match. But man, it would be great for whoever destroyed Sting. You can't. People want to be happy. They want to leave wrestling shows happy. Let them leave happy. Let them leave happy. Very scary injury, by the way, before we get to emails. Very scary injury, or moment, I should say. I don't know if it's technically an injury or not. In the Carmelo Hayes Austin Theory match, that Spanish Fly that went awry. I think big time props to WWE and WWE officials for being so on the ball. I thought in that tag team match a couple weeks ago, where referee Bennett was immediately on it when Giovanni Vinci kind of, knocked himself silly and wasn't responding. Immediately was like, stop, checked him, end of the match, we're good. To the point where, I think the other three guys weren't 100% sure what had happened. And in this match, the referee as well was like, he knew immediately, check, nope, okay, stop. And the fact that, those referees are so on the ball, I think that's a really important thing. Because you don't want to mess with that stuff at all. And the fact that they're taking it as seriously as they are, I think is a very, very good thing. And one of the things that makes this era very different from previous eras of professional wrestling. And all professional sports, really, when you look at it. All right. Let's get to these emails. Don't forget, if you're typing on your computer or on your phone to write an email, you can also be going to notsamlive.com and getting tickets for the big Not Sam Wrestling live podcast that's happening the day before the Royal Rumble, Friday, 5 p.m. at SideSplitters in Tampa, Florida. We have got a full dance card. Guest list is packed. I'm going to start announcing them this week. Get your tickets now at notsamlive.com. Also, you can get shirts like the ones that I'm wearing, zip-up hoodies and T-shirts, the new blue Not Sam Wrestling logo. Speculate wildly. Go to notsamshirts.com. We have a 2-week pre-order open, and then they're going right back in the vault. So go on, get those pre-orders in right now. Order now or forever hold your peace, because I'm putting them back in the vault, and I don't open that vault for nothing. Let's get to these emails. notsamwrestling@gmail.com is the email address. You want to contribute to the show, you want to hear your email read on the podcast, maybe, go to notsamwrestling@gmail.com and write me an email. Let's go to Joe. First time, long time. I appreciate your passion and thoughtful discourse about the product. I appreciate you, Joe. As a fellow elder fan, I am a young fan, Joe. I am 26 years old, as a matter of fact. And a lot of people don't realize that. It's a real pleasure to hear your thoughts every week. I like your take on this bit I've been turning over in my head for a while. Braun Breaker was put in his place by The Undertaker at a recent NXT show, as Taker took issue with Braun referring to himself as badass. However, it seems like Braun is still referring to himself as the disputed term. Now, rule number 3 tells me everything counts, that this disagreement isn't over. Is this all leading to Braun under Biker match at some point? Or was that interaction just a one-off to pop a rating? If it's the latter, doesn't it fly in the face of rule number 3? Can't wait to hear how I'm an idiot. Keep up the good work. No, Joe, that's a great question. You're actually not an idiot. That's not an idiotic email. I get a lot of idiotic emails, but that's not one of them. The thing about everything counts is that we can't be so linear about it. Right? This isn't like we are doing this because in 4 years, we're going to have Braun Breaker versus The Undertaker. That's not what everything counts means. There's a direction that you're going in with characters. But the fact is that if at some point The Undertaker, let's say a year and a half from now, The Undertaker goes, you know what? I think I can have another match. I think I can have like a street fight match. I think I can do what Austin did at WrestleMania 38. Is there who's somebody that I could face? And they go, well, it would make sense for you to face Braun Breaker because everything counts. Everything counts doesn't fly in the face of that doesn't mean everything's possible. There's no way that The Undertaker right now is being prepped for a match. Right? It's not happening. He's retired. But should he choose to come out of retirement at one point, the idea of him versus Braun Breaker, it's not a guarantee, but it's at least a possibility. Why is it a possibility? Because everything counts. Hope that brings some clarification. Ultra Boy is now writing in, I'm glad we agree when it comes to Roman versus Rocket Mania, but I'm still going crazy that people actually think Randy Orton should win the 4-way to face Cody. I hate that so much, like they don't understand when Roman loses, that's the moment he loses. It's not about Cody. I agree with you, Ultra Boy. It's not about someone else's moment as much as it is Roman losing, because it's Roman's story. Yes, you're going to end at 12. Okay, I feel like you're venting at me. You're not asking me a question. Speaking of the chamber, I'm pretty sure we're getting Rock versus Grayson Waller, or at least Grayson Waller effect with The Rock, because rule number 3, I remember segments where Grayson Waller mentioned how The Rock was mentioning him on Twitter. So that's going to be cool. What are your thoughts, Sam? Well, everything counts, but also sometimes people go into business for themselves. You can't get those two confused. Like, sometimes people take advantage of the fact that everything counts and they go into business for themselves. Was Grayson Waller assigned to go on Twitter and say things about The Rock, or did he go into business for himself? I don't think it's bad to go into business for yourself, because sometimes it could implant an idea in somebody's head to go like, oh, maybe we should do that. But, that's certainly not cemented. If The Rock were to go over to the Elimination Chamber, I could easily see him doing the Grayson Waller effect. Yes, The Rock on the Grayson Waller effect could happen at Elimination Chamber, especially if Roman is not going to be in Australia and you have The Rock going, then yes, I would not have him wrestle Grayson Waller necessarily. I would put him in the Grayson Waller effect segment. Yes. If Roman is going, I would probably do a contract signing and have Roman and Rock look at each other face to face and not involve Grayson Waller. Let's see. Shay Boogie writes in, Happy New Year to you and your family. Watching Raw, I've been increasingly impressed with Drew McIntyre's ability to cut promo. I would argue he's one of the best on the mic right now. Which superstars do you believe were and are underrated on the mic in past and present? Okay, and who has future potential? I don't know. I mean, I think Jinder Mahal, as I brought up, is much better than people give him credit for. I think you're 100% right about Drew McIntyre. Now that he's coming from a place of truth, I think it's been really good. Yeah, I guess Jinder. I guess Jinder is pretty underrated. I thought his promos the last 2 weeks have been really good. Let's see. Is there anybody else who I can come up with just off the top of my dome that's underrated? I don't know. I'll give it more thought at some point maybe and give it some research. Every week we hear from Kanjay. I was having a debate with my brother and wondered what's your opinion. Which match is better? DIY versus Revival TakeOver Toronto 2016 or Motor City Machine Guns versus Beer Money, the whole effing show 2010? I like the second one more. No, I like DIY versus Revival more. DIY Revival 2016, it's hard to think of something more enjoyable to watch than that. Also, my fantasy booking for Money in the Bank. Oh boy. Priest and The Miz lose the tag belts. The Miz and the Damian Priest are not the tag team champions. To Awesome Truth at Mania. So WrestleMania is Truth and Miz versus Priest and Finn. Okay. And as of right now, I don't know. I honestly think Rollins is retaining, but if Punk wins, this could still work, if not be better. Damian, after a lot of failed cash-ins, decides to announce the match ahead of time and main event Money in the Bank 2024. This is now July, with Priest versus Rollins or Punk or June or whatever. No, it's July. You're talking about July 5th. July 6th. Tell Judgment. Look, don't come to me. I don't like when people do this in fantasy booking. When they go, here's the way you do it. At WrestleMania, have this happen, and then do this at Money in the Bank. And you're like, okay, so April to July is just, well, you do whatever. April, May, you got 3 months just unaccounted for. And also, we'd have to do the research. Okay, I'll do it right now. It's not going to take much. When was Money in the Bank 2023? I wish I had some AI that I could just talk it into instead of this pesky typing. Let's see. Money in the Bank. Okay, see, there you go. Money in the Bank 2023 happened on July 1st, 2023. Money in the Bank 2024 is on July 6th, 2024. The Money in the Bank rules are that you have 1 year to cash in. Money in the Bank this year is more than 1 year. Plus, it's a leap year, so I hope it doesn't say 365 days. But Money in the Bank this year is more than a year past Money in the Bank last year. So, yeah, no. Andrew writes in, Sam, I'm from Scotland. I've been listening to the podcast since 2016 in which Katie Linendahl would do a Cody and come back to finish the story. Finish the story, Katie. Shouldn't she be cawing for Sting's last match? Whew. In my opinion, Roman should have lost the title before now. You're crazy. As it seems, the Bloodline's best days, meaning storylines, are behind them. You can't say that. Let's see where this is. Let him cook. Let him cook, Andrew. Roman versus Rocket Mania is pretty much locked in now. After Roman inevitably wins and moves on to Gunther or Solo, or hopefully MJF, I don't think so. How long do you think they can keep him heel? Gunther is in the same boat. Well, here's the thing. I think they can keep Roman heel longer than Gunther because they can turn Gunther babyface against Roman. I think Gunther turns babyface against Roman. I think Roman turns babyface against Solo. I would imagine Roman may be a babyface by the end of the year. That's probably what I would say. That's tough to say declaratively. That's a big statement. But Matt writes in, to get Roman versus Rocket Mania, Punk wins the Rumble to face Seth. Yes. Aldis will put Roman in the chamber as champ with the title on the line against all of our favorite babyfaces. Okay. Roman retains, bypassing the notion of the winner gets a title shot at WrestleMania. Okay. SmackDown after Elimination Chamber, if you smell. I don't mind that scenario at all. I really don't. And I'll tell you why. I mean, I don't think you need it. I think you can just say The Rock is wrestling Roman Reigns and that's it. Like, I don't think you need to go through all this. However, I don't mind that at all because people would go into Elimination Chamber going, you put Randy in there. You put, like, it's like everybody that was in the Fatal 4-Way and then 2 others, right? 4, 5, 6, right? 2 others. You easily have people going, this one could win, that one could win, this one could win, that one could win. And then when they don't, because Cody could finish the story. If Roman doesn't win the title at Elimination Chamber, Cody could finish the story. You could still do Roman versus Rock. Roman versus Rock doesn't need the title. You could still do Roman versus Rock without the title. Roman versus Rock is getting the title. Period. So I love this Elimination Chamber idea because you'd have another month of people going, oh, yeah, it doesn't need the title. It doesn't need the title. And then Roman wins. That's my favorite thing in the world right now. It doesn't need the title. It doesn't need the title. And then Roman wins. It doesn't need the title. It doesn't need the title. And then Roman wins again. Well, Roman doesn't have to beat The Rock, and then Roman wins. And then Roman wins. I actually don't mind it, Matt. I think it's fun. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if Roman's going to the chamber, but if he is, that'd be great. Anthony writes in, big fan of the show, so here's a short question. If your speculation on John Cena's last run comes true, what would you rather it involve, a 17th World Heavyweight Championship or a first-time Intercontinental Championship? Definitely a 17th World Heavyweight Championship. You know, I would much rather him, because even if you're like, oh, I mean, well, actually, I just thought of who the Intercontinental Champion was. Because generally speaking, I'd go, yeah, I want John Cena in main event shows. But I do like the idea of John Cena wanting to finish the story. John Cena's never won the Intercontinental title. He's won every other title. He's never won the Intercontinental title. I love the idea of John Cena coming back to go like, I want the one thing that I've never gotten. Everything that I've done has been to put the business forward. I came back to make sure that Austin Theory had a spot at WrestleMania. I came back to make sure that LA Knight was seen by as many people as possible. I came back to make sure that we could get The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I came back to do this. I came back to do that. This time I'm coming back for me. And it's not in a selfish way. It's just to do all the things that I've ever wanted to do. If I'm going to leave WWE forever, I need to make sure every goal is accomplished. And there's one thing I've never done. I've never won the Intercontinental Championship. And now he's got to beat Gunther. As long as Gunther is the Intercontinental Champion, I would like him to come back and fight for the Intercontinental Championship. If Gunther is not the Intercontinental Champion, then I'd like him to have the 17th World Heavyweight Championship or world title. Rob, I've always been in favor of this because the division wasn't deep enough. But I think at this point, WWE main roster needs a women's middle card title. I haven't always, he said. Sorry. I can't see Roxanne Perez, as good as she is, believably matching up with a legitimate superhuman like Rhea Bianca or Jade. Well, we'll see with Jade. It could be, you could be right. It's not an insult. You could be right, but we'll see. It kind of pigeonholes women her size into tag teams, even though they're well-rounded singles wrestlers. If you think the tag titles were a great avenue to get more women on TV, but shouldn't be there, a singles title. Look, I have always been of the opinion that it should be stories than championships. I think that there should be more effort put in to telling great stories with female superstars. I think that we should have much more stuff like what we had with Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus, where it was just like, we're seeing this cage match to settle a rivalry. I think that it shouldn't be about world title and that's it. That there's one goal to becoming a female superstar in the WWE, and that's to win the women's championship. I think that it should be story-based. And I think that you start with stories, and maybe you get to a point where the division gets so hot that you're like, okay, we do need another title because all these stories have heated up the division so much. But I think you can give women, you can build, because that roster is so loaded. And there are so many women in NXT that are so good. I think that the key would be to make more matches about personal issues that need to be resolved in the women's division. Darren writes in, he's from Ontario, Canada. I love it. I love the show and don't miss an episode. I appreciate that. My favorite surprise entry into the Royal Rumble was Mr. Perfect 2002. Oh, I love it. What are your favorite superstar surprise entrants over the years? I do love Mr. Perfect in 2002. That's a really, really good one. I think Goldust was the same year, and I really like that one as a Goldust fan. I like the returns that are like totally random, that are not like, oh, yeah. Like I was waiting for this guy to return. Like I love the Diesel return. I don't remember off the top of my head what year that was, but when Kevin Nash returned as Diesel and just showed up, I thought that was freaking great. Yeah. So for me, I'm with you on Mr. Perfect. I'll go with you on Goldust that year too. 2002 is a great Royal Rumble. I might actually watch that after I record today's show. And Diesel as a surprise entrant after the Kevin Nash run, when he came back with jet black hair and the Diesel gear, I thought that was awesome. Nicholas writes in, I'm as happy as Stanley on Pretzel Day because I just ordered my tickets to SmackDown and Backlash in France. Congratulations and great reference. To celebrate, could you do me the honor of reading the 3 rules in French? Oof. Règle numéro 1. Regardez les produits. Règle numéro 2. Spectacle sauvagement. Règle numéro 3. Tout compte. Have a nice week, Sam. Nicholas, write in next week and tell me how I did. I think it was great. You have a beautiful country, by the way. I love it there. Oh, my God. It's a long email. I don't know. You get the nerve of some of you guys. Hello, this is from Floyd. Big fan of the show over here in the UK. What do you think? You're Bill Shakespeare, as long as this email is? I'm kidding. The return of the Great One has changed everything. As now, I'm a lot more receptive of Cody not finishing his story at Mania 40. So here's how I think the road to WrestleMania could be mapped out for the men's and women's main event roster. Okay? You put a lot of thought into this, so I'm going to read it. I appreciate how much thought you put into it. Royal Rumble, Bayley and CM Punk to win their respective Rumble matches. I like that. Bayley and Bianca Belair are the final 2. I don't have a problem with that. This could put Bayley in an awkward situation with Damage Control, with Io uncomfortable with the prospect of Bayley choosing to challenge her or Rhea for their respective titles. After watching Punk and Drew's promo on Raw, I think the final 3 could be Cody, Drew, and Punk. But could The Rock be in the Rumble? The Rock could be, but I don't think it should be. I think I'm with you on Cody, Drew, Punk as the final 3. I'm fine with that. Reigns to pin either Styles or Knight to retain the title. No outside interference so Roman can win clean for once. I'm going to say this right now. Please, for the love of God, have Roman Reigns win the Fatal 4-Way at the Royal Rumble with no outside interference. It has to start happening. The Bloodline story has to evolve. And one of those evolutions as we get to WrestleMania is that Roman Reigns is truly a beast. Not a beast by circumstance, but a beast by birth. Show us that Roman can win this Fatal 4-Way without outside interference. I want more than anything else for Roman to put AJ Styles on top of Randy Orton, who's on top of LA Knight, and have him pin all 3 men, hearkening back to WrestleMania 37 with no outside interference. Please give me that. I'm with you. Elimination Chamber. The Women's Chamber match. Now, for the record, Elimination Chamber isn't always the winner gets a shot at WrestleMania. Like, there have been tag team Elimination Chamber matches. There have been United States Championship Elimination Chamber matches. Elimination Chamber. The Women's Chamber. I prefer the winner of the Chamber gets the other shot at WrestleMania. That's my preference, but I'm just saying. The Women's Chamber match could consist of Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, Asuka, Kairi Sane, Nia Jax, and Bianca Belair. Belair pins Jax to win the match, potentially setting up a triple threat at Mania with Bayley and Io. I don't like that at all. Could Rhea Ripley defend her title against Becky Lynch, and could a jealous, vindictive Nia Jax, after losing the Chamber match, screw Becky over? I don't like that at all. I don't like it for either of them. I don't like anybody getting screwed out of a match at WrestleMania. The men's chamber match could consist of Randy, Cody, Waller, Theory, Solo, and The Rock. I don't like that at all. Could Solo or Randy be responsible for... Cody could be removed from the match due to injury without being pinned. I don't like that. Could Solo or Randy be responsible? Oh, that I'm okay. Setting up to a match with Cody. The final three could be Solo, Randy, and The Rock. Solo pins Randy. Rock pins Solo to set up WrestleMania 40 match with Roman. Look, I think it's too predictable if The Rock's in the chamber match. I don't mind the Cody booking because it does follow what I've been saying about the story at WrestleMania should be Cody is not finishing the story. And then Mania 40, Ripley versus Lynch or Ripley versus Lynch versus Jax. Oh, you said Nia. I don't know because Jade Cargill's in the conversation. There's a lot there. Belair versus Io versus Bayley. No, Io versus Bayley. Cody versus Orton. It may be where you go. I'm not against it. Roman defeats The Rock thanks to interference from Solo. I would rather Roman Reigns beat The Rock clean. Punk versus Rollins with a mid-match cash-in from Damian Priest. No way. Because the reason the Rollins cash-in worked so well and became so legendary was because nobody wanted to see Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. If you go back to WrestleMania Push Play, WrestleMania 31, I remember I was sitting in the second row, I want to say. I was sitting with Kevin Undergaro and Maria Menounos. And the building was packed, but expectations were very low. People were bummed that Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar was the main event. I mean, that WrestleMania season was terrible. Starting with Roman Reigns winning a Royal Rumble that nobody wanted him to win. Going to a main event that nobody wanted to see. And Seth coming in and messing that up. And Roman Reigns not being the guy, but Seth being the guy was what made that so magical. The problem is here, everybody wants to see Punk versus Rollins. And many want to see Punk have a moment. Others will want to see Punk get defeated. But people want Punk versus Rollins. So that, to me, is why the mid-match cash-in doesn't work at all. Maybe you could have Damian Priest cash in on Punk the night after WrestleMania and become the champion. But, yeah. I would probably have Priest cash in on Punk after WrestleMania, the night after, and then do Rollins versus Priest, Punk versus Cody Rhodes. But I appreciate all the effort you put into that. Now, a lot of that was good, mainly because I agreed with it. This is coming from Papa G. Greetings from Drewland. I don't know what that is. Maybe Scotland? I was listening to the last week's show and completely agree about Rock and Roman and Seth and Punk being the main events of both nights of WrestleMania 40. Nice. But when you discussed who could it have been that cost Cody, I was thinking Drew on his current character arc. But someone has to win the Rumble. I think Punk, and he faces Seth. I agree. Someone has to win the Chamber. What do they get? Well, we already talked about that, buddy. I mean, I know you sent the email before this podcast came out, but yeah, we talked about it. Mitch in Seattle. Hope all is well with you and your family. Appreciate that. First-time listener, long-time listener. Oh, I was about to say, first-time emailer. Great. I can't wait any longer to get your thoughts on Nick Aldis giving the opening segment of SmackDown and the series, and after the series of Bloodline run-ins. How long before we see Aldis in the ring? I mean, he's only 37 and has a laundry list of accomplishments outside of WWE, and now the GM role has been in collision course with Roman after a number of run-ins, possibly Randy after that RKO sequence, and you know him and Cody can work a program if Cody winds up on SmackDown between now and the inevitable finishing the story. A couple of manias from now. Is WWE trying to create more awareness to the non-wrestling superfans of who Aldis is before he wrestles in WWE? Appreciate spending Monday mornings with you, my man. Thank you, Mitch. I appreciate you very, very much. I love that email. Yeah, and I've heard the rumblings about Nick Aldis wrestling, and I think that it's worth discussing, certainly. The problem for me is that he's doing an incredible job as the GM right now, and I don't want to disrupt Nick Aldis as the GM. I think that most WWE fans have never seen a Nick Aldis match in their lives. You could tell them that he was the former NWA champion. You could say he had a match with Cody Rhodes at All In. There's a lot of stuff you could talk about his career in TNA. But I think most WWE fans did not know who he was when he first showed up. And I don't think that that's a slight on him whatsoever. I think that's just the way WWE is. Look at the numbers WWE gets and look at the numbers everybody else gets. Mathematically, there are more people watching WWE than anything else, and there are a lot of people watching WWE that don't watch anything else. So I think that if you're going to put Nick Aldis in a wrestling role, number one, you better have somebody good to replace him as GM, because people are very quickly falling in love with this guy as GM. And number two, you need to really get it across that he's got the ability to wrestle, because otherwise there's not much difference between him and Adam Pearce. When Adam Pearce was about to have a match with Roman Reigns, it was not like, oh, this wrestler we've been waiting to come out of retirement is wrestling. It was the guy in the suit's going to wrestle. Now, Nick Aldis is clearly not just a guy in a suit, because you could even see through his suit. He's got these bulging biceps, the likes of which you very rarely see. Do I think Nick Aldis will eventually wrestle in the WWE? Yes. He's too good. And I'm happy for that. But I think it'll come in time. And maybe even after WrestleMania. But who knows? Who knows? He could be on a collision course. Look, I appreciate all you guys emailing in. If you want to keep sending emails in, send them in to notsamwrestling@gmail.com. There's still a bunch more. If I didn't get to them, just resend them in, and I'll get to them next week. Thank you for tuning in once again. Don't forget, notsamlive.com is the place to get tickets to the Tampa show. Notsamshirts.com is the place to go for the merch that's only going to be up for 2 weeks. And we will see you again here on Not Sam Wrestling.